Welcome to NC Debrief, the show where we analyze and break down political, social, and cultural issues that affect us as Africans. I'm Tolulope Adilere Balogun, and today we'll be talking about being man enough. We live in a world that many people call a man's world, but that is changing. More and more there's a spotlight placed on how patriarchal many societies are and how that has affected girls and women. But people are starting to question how these same societies affect the men who run them. What are the pressures men feel? What are the expectations put on them to be man enough? Who is a man? Who determines who a man is? We'll get into all this and more on today's episode of NC Debrief. My guests today are two Nigerian actors who are part of the Bolanle Austen-Peters stage play, Man Enough. So first, introductions. Moshood Fattah is an actor with an impressive work in TV, film, and stage. His credits include For Old Time's Sake, Moremi the Musical, The Johnsons, Fattah and the Kalakuta Queens, and others. My other guest, Paolo Sisiano, is a multifaceted creative, choreographer, actor, and fashion designer. Paolo is the creative director of Sisiano and was a finalist for the 2013 GT Bank Lagos Fashion and Design Week Awards. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
I'm looking forward to a good conversation, so let's get straight into it. Now, we asked a few male guests who have passed through News Central's studios to share with us their thoughts on masculinity. Let's take a look at this.
Now, I feel like this is a concept that has been misconstrued in different ways, and even personally, growing up, I think I also faced that challenge about what being a man is and what exactly is a man. I used to think a man had to be a strong man, quote unquote, and that nobody can talk to you. You need to be the bad guy. You need to be that guy who doesn't take nonsense from a woman, and you need to be the sole provider. I used to feel inadequate because I just wasn't raised that way, and I wasn't that person. I was the cool person, the calm-headed person, but it just felt like the world didn't want that kind of man, or at least that's how I felt.
I think in the Nigerian society, young men or boys are conditioned to live a certain way, feel a certain way, suppress their emotions. They're made to feel, big boys don't cry. That phrase, be a man, has been used over and over.
So we had an actor and we had a rapper talk about their feelings around masculinity. One said he grew up feeling inadequate, not being the man that he thought everybody expected him to be. And then YC goes on to talk about boys being expected to suppress their emotions and, suck it up and be a man. So I'll start with this question to the two of you. In the context of a new generation that's having conversations around gender roles, are you having conversations with your friends about what it means to be a man, about masculinity, about being vulnerable, about anything that sort of really puts into context? Because we've always been told men don't talk about these things. So are there conversations that are starting now?
Well, at work.
At work?
We discuss this every time.
Of course at work. You're in a stage play called Man Enough, of course.
Even before now,
okay.
And even Paolo raises these issues at work. We sit down as men, like 5, 10, 12 men in the room, talk about what we face individually, and then you hear stories, and it's crazy in there.
So the conversations are starting?
Yes, they happen.
But are they among your age group? Do you think they're happening older as well? Brothers and fathers? Or is it because the way this generation is sort of structured to be able to be a bit more vocal and honest in conversations? Paolo?
I think that it's a conversation that eventually needs to trickle down and not necessarily go upward, because we need to transfer. So it's an information that is being transferred, and we're only at this space because people have transferred a certain information as to what a man is and how a man should be. And that's why we've had to walk our way out of this so-called structure
a little bit,
to now find something else and find meaning for ourselves at the end of the day. Because a man at the end of the day is just another human being just trying to walk through life.
All right, so let's get into that. In the context of our societies, particularly African societies, and even with personal experiences, do you think do you accept for yourselves that there is pressure on men to be a certain way, to do a certain thing, to talk a certain way, to behave a certain way, to respond a certain way, regardless of what the situation might be? Moshood, let me start with you here.
Yes, there is, but personally, and to be honest, I really have never felt that pressure. I think my life has been pretty, I don't want to say privileged, but I didn't really know how bad it was until I started talking to people outside
of your circle or your environment.
And then at work, just hear people talk about stuff that I never knew. I never knew how what things they're going through until they started speaking. I'm like, wow, oh, these things exist. Why do you have to go through this? And you know, yes, the pressure. Yes, it is. We have that pressure, but I'm glad that, like you said, it's trickling down. With as well, for example, we have guys of different ages.
Yeah.
Guys in their 40s, 30s, 20s, and then I believe that when we go home, we actually let our younger ones, our nephews or cousins. And I have cousins who discuss these things with me. I'm very impressed to have cousins who are willing to say, sometimes I want to wear this. Sometimes I feel like expressing myself this way. I'm like, okay, yeah, go, kid, it's fine. So I think we're having those conversations, and I'm glad we're doing that. All
right, so Paolo, what have your experiences been in the context of Africa and even personal experiences in terms of the pressure?
I would say, of course, there's a lot of pressure on the male gender because in our society as Africans, we are very quick to say a man should sort it out and a man should lead. And I do understand the fact that it's easy to appoint like a role and say the man usually would lead. And that even comes with our religious backgrounds as well.
And cultural in some aspects.
All of that is quoted in there. And you do realize that men really just want to play those roles. And whether they break their backs or not, they're just trying. So at every level, be it the rich, the middle class, the poor, a man is literally trying to be a man at his own level. And most times, they don't have the ability to play through it. And there are no breaks, there are no stops, there are no replays, and you find that people just keep going. There's never really a time to chill and say, okay, I'm just gonna relax, this is one life. And it's a lot of pressure. I come from a place where we've had to walk up because of certain circumstances, and I gave my older brother that pressure at some point. And I said, you have to lead, because I just wanted someone to lead. But then we forget that when we say those things, we don't know how they land with someone else.
With the person we're expecting.
Yes, so there's so much we're expecting without realizing, what if that was you? And then I've also put myself in that space and said, you know what, this is too much, I just can't handle this. But then you keep going as well. So I think that there's a lot of pressure, and it's nice to be able to talk about it and to be able to voice it out, and so that people are not ashamed to say, "Oh, I'm tired."
And then, you know what? It's not the same thing as say "I'm tired" in English. When you turn it into vernacular, it lands differently. If you in Yoruba, that basically means I am fed up. I am tired. There's no more that I can do. So I heard. Not more than heard. I saw you reacting as Paolo was speaking, and there were some sighs, and I'm wondering where is that coming from?
All right, so during rehearsal, I think the first reading for Man Enough, it was myself, him, we had Gideon Okeke, we had a couple of other guys talking about stuff, and then at the point we stopped reading, and each guy started talking of their own individual experiences at work, and I couldn't say anything. I'm like, okay, wow, he went through this, and they're still standing. So him even doing this right now, like I can respect him putting his heart out there.
And that's the conversations we want.
Yes.
Right? All right, so let's get into the specifics. What is required? What is expected of men?
Money.
Money. Okay. Time.
Support.
Great sex. Every time.
Well, you know, there's also the sexual aspect in the conversation around. We can't shy away from that in the conversation around quote unquote being a man. So money, good sex, time, support, leadership. What else? Strength, I think.
Unwavering loyalty.
Unwavering?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh no, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
You know why I don't? I would disagree. I think that because of the pressure and the commitment to wanting to be a man, sometimes we blur the lines and we just do anything to get to the other side.
Even when they're disloyal things.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that we, as African men, make that the sole caption of our lives. So it's like a destination, it's right there. So I'm going there regardless. So we forget everything else here. We just need to get to, I was the man, I sorted that out.
Interesting.
So it's actually more about you as a man than who you're helping out?
Because that satisfies the person you're helping out.
All right, we're gonna take a quick time out. We're getting into this conversation, and you have a lot in store for you as we talk about all the context and conversations around being a man. This is NC Debrief. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Africa is rising. Again, we hear our sounds echo on the other side. Afrobeats and Afropop reinvented, hip brought back to life, new energy infused into Kwaito and Quella. Africa is balling. Every stroke, every shot, every race, we find our place at the top. Taking the helm of real power, new hopes for democracies. A breed of entrepreneurial tigers, audacious storytellers, and a promising generation raring to go. Truly, Africa is rising. And this is where the stories that define our continent live.
Thank you so much for staying with me. So my guest and I were getting into conversations surrounding what it means to be a man. Being a man is the topic of today's NC Debrief. So I've asked specifically about what the requirements to be a man are. And we had support, we had good sex, we had money, we had, I forgot, time. Yes, time. We had loyalty, whether unwavering or not, even though that was, and leadership, even though that's still being contested. But now let's talk about the consequences of this pressure. So in 2016, which happens to be the last year that global data was available from the World Health Organization, there were an estimated 793,000 suicide deaths worldwide. Most of them were men. According to literature on gender and suicide, male suicide rates are explained in terms of traditional gender roles. Male gender roles tend to emphasize greater levels of strength, independence, risk-taking behavior, and much more. Men across the world report feeling trapped in the man box. They feel pressure to act tough, hide weaknesses, and look good. This can also have damaging effects on their health and well-being, as well as their relationships with each other and with women and children. So, what would you say is the cost that men bear for being in the man box, for being expected to be men, for being expected to be tough and suck it up and boys don't cry, and in their personal lives, what do you think the consequences are? Paolo, let me start with you.
So,
I feel like something's coming. Is it coming?
Are you ready? Okay.
Okay.
So I think that as human beings, we generally need to purge our emotions. And that's why we're able to laugh and cry and express different emotions as we go through life. But in the space where we tend to shut off certain emotions, and so I can't cry, I can't feel down, I can't show up as weak, we keep building this big explosive that is just gonna go boom.
One day.
And for as long as we don't talk about it, for as long as we have no conversation that addresses the issues that we feel inside of us, we tend to build up different minds in one space. And we hear all these voices. Because as human beings, your intuition is still there. So there's that guy that is there saying, yeah, you can do this, you can do this. And the other guy is like, you could just break your leg.
Oh boy.
You better slow down. So there's all these things that we battle on with ourselves before adding the added pressure of the world into it. And the reasons why emotions are put in place are actually to put us in check. So that's why sometimes if you cried, you feel a little bit better.
Relief, like pressure, a pressure valve.
If you have a nice laugh, it could snap you out of like a sad
mood.
moment or a mood. So just imagine shutting off a part of you. There's this unnecessary build-up as to not knowing when the circuit system is going to
switch, flip.
Come on. At some point. And men in general, now this is my own point of view, aren't as strong as we claim to be. And we go from being a boy to becoming a man to becoming a boy again. And with each man, no matter how tough, ends up with his wife, that he aims for her to care for him, regardless what is provided. So I don't necessarily think that, please, my opinion. So I don't necessarily think that it's as tough as we prove to be. So I would think that in having like a full circle, is to let ourselves just experience, because these things, when the bomb goes off, we find out that we have nowhere else to go. And then the suicidal thought comes into it.
Yeah.
It's just a weakness, but at the same time, we had this conversation when we're doing the script reading.
Yeah, wisdom.
And it was more of, is someone weak for taking out themselves?
Yes, I remember.
Or is it a sign of strength? And no one asked the answer to that question.
Yeah.
It was,
Because people have different strokes, and if they say they're tired, then they're tired.
You can't be tired for them, and you can't be strong.
You can't be anything.
Yes, you can't be for them.
Can't.
For me, it just places us in such a helpless situation as to not being able to reach out or do anything. So if we can stay by them while they cry, isn't it better than staying by their gravesites when they're gone? So I think that we need to let people relax.
Okay.
We don't let men relax.
So Moshood, he says we don't let men relax, and there are hundreds of thousands of men out there who feel like they're stuck in this box of societal expectations, and they're not allowed to keep their emotions and to put them out there. So what do you think in terms of the consequences that come from all of this buildup, all of this staying behind a wall in a way?
Mental health is a very, very important
Yeah.
thing. And even before suicide, there are a lot of ways the mind can get corrupt. The schizophrenia, paranoia. You have people who become so frustrated that they begin to act out even towards people that they love. You know, people can really get messed up in here, and it's unfortunate that we don't have we're in a country where we don't really want to have conversations about mental health. And even before suicide comes along the way, it's painful to see how men hurt the ones they love.
Yeah.
A man loves his wife, but because he doesn't know how to express certain things, he hits his wife. Not because he's evil, and I'm not even trying to encourage that behavior, but he doesn't even know how to say, I'm tired, or I'm angry, or I feel like I'm failing you, or something, and just to his wife, to his kids. I hear friends talk about how their father's treating them. I'm like, are you sure that's your father? When I was younger, I thought we were just being plain evil, but now, you know, when I can see that something must have...
There's context and
there's
conversation.
Something that would have pushed a man to look at his son and say, I wish I didn't give birth to you. Who says that to a child? So it's a lot of... The mind really goes for it, and obviously there's still suicide, people losing their lives. I mean, the character I play, man enough, commits suicide, and I had to do my research on the statistics of people who commit suicide in Africa, around the world. And it's crazy.
It is, and the pressure to just continue to provide, even when you wake up every day and you don't know where you're going to go to get that provision, and it feels like you can't tell. There are so many stories out there of men who have lost their jobs or have no job, and they get up and they leave the house every day and they continue to make their families believe that there is a job, and all of this sort of comes back to an idea of what is expected of them. So let's move on to another part of the conversation. So a phrase that has become part and parcel of the gender conversation is toxic masculinity. It is defined by an adherence to traditional male gender roles that restrict the kinds of emotions allowable for boys and men to express, including social expectations that men seek to be dominant, that's the alpha male, and limit their emotional range primarily to expressions of anger. And that's really going into a bit of what Paolo has said. Now, do you think there are aspects of the drive and the push and pressure to be a man that can make masculinity toxic?
Of course.
So, who wants to start with this one? This happens to be a pressure point in the conversation for many people.
Toxic masculinity.
I would start by saying it boils down to our society, our societal structures, and the fact that in the essence of it, if I go by an actor, I would say that there are women that are men. And there are men that are women. And this isn't nothing to do with roles. It's just the fact that we say, oh, a woman is weak, a man is strong. I've seen women
who
that
are
super strong, and I've seen men that are weak. It doesn't change anything. For me, we start off as being human beings, and for as long as we have many organizations that says, I'm doing this for the girl child, I'm doing this for the boy child, we're constantly creating a divide rather than bringing about this melting pot to say, we're supposed to work together. So Moshood is supposed to work with Tolulope. Tolulope is supposed to work with me. I'm supposed to work with the next person. Rather than saying, this is a race for the men. So Moshood and Paolo, get in line here and do this. So for as long as we have this divide, this gender divide, we're not getting anywhere. So if 5 years down the line, we're talking about the girl child, which is fine. But the girl child is affected by the male child. So you run something that says girls are being raped, and you run these organizations, and there are thousands of girls there and women there, but you're not addressing the men.
You also get raped too.
And who are mainly the perpetrators.
Thank you.
So this aspect of the conversation is a conversation I've had with friends a lot. We've done so much in the past 10 to 15 years to bring the girl child up, I'll say up to speed, to make them more independent, to get them into school more, and even to change how they think about things. But the one thing I always remember is that in a context of those who still want to get married, you're advancing the girl child mentally into a different space. But the person she's gonna marry still happens to be likely a boy child who was raised differently, or who still raised the same traditional way. So you now end up with two people in a marriage who go into it maybe not very vocally and obviously with different end goals in mind, but those fissures, they start to show and they start to rub against each other because they were raised just a bit differently. So that's a very big part of the conversation.
It's a generational switch that needs to happen.
I think
because sorry, Moshood, let me just quickly, because what happens is in the organizations you have this bunch of people, say the women talking, we need to change this, we need to change this. The men are not involved. Now the men are committing suicide, and if at all you bring a bunch of men together to talk about it, you're not bringing the women in that put the pressure as well. So we have a society that says a man must provide for the woman. So the woman is at home saying,
provide
where's money
for me,
soup?
Provide for me.
Not understanding the frustration, nothing. If a man is the one raping the girl, you're talking with the girls, not bringing the man in. Bear in mind, it's a woman that raises a man, or a man raises a girl.
But in the
so guys, this is
hold up.
Guys, this
hold up. In the context of patriarchy, that same woman who's raising the man is raising the man the way she's been told
to raise the man.
By who? Who told her to
society.
raise?
So
who is the society?
Our mother?
Wait.
Hold up. Moshood.
On that, let me tell you a very short story. I was in school then, and I was at my aunt's, and she was like, "Where's your girlfriend?" I said, "No, I'm single."
How old were you?
I was 20.
Okay.
I mean,
still around the time they start asking.
And then she says, when your father was this age, he had a lot of girlfriends. You should have many girlfriends. And I'm like, okay, moving on. And then like 2 days later, she broke down with my other aunt, talking about how her husband was cheating on her with someone else.
So she was just encouraging you to be a man like your father and have multiple girlfriends.
Wow, did she even think before telling me that? Like, she's actually propagating the same thing she's even complaining about. So I think in our society today, we really need to interrogate every aspect of society.
That's the word.
Religion, culture, whatever it is. Does it really make sense? Don't say because, oh, it's in this holy book, or our fathers have always said, does it actually make sense today? But unfortunately, we live in a society where people live in fear of challenging authority.
But that's also a context around how we're raised as well. But it's changing.
I mean,
it is changing.
I'm glad it's changing. The way I was raised, we could question everything.
You're an outlier. Let me tell you, you're probably an outlier. The majority of African children are raised not to question authority, to do as their parents say, to do as people in positions of authority say. And then when you raise them to become adults and you want them to start questioning politicians and political leaders, how? They weren't raised.
They can't even question their teachers in school, the lecturers. They can't even question the lecturers in school. Come out our arguments.
All right, there's still a lot more. So let's get into another aspect of this conversation now. The South African author of A Man Is Not a Man talked about the idea of social suicide. He says that it's something men need to commit in order to straighten things out, because when you think about the consequences of standing up to the culture that exists, you might as well be ready to die socially. Let's hear what he had to say.
I think that men should commit what I would call social suicide. Social suicide in the sense of going against manhood as we know it, knowing that your manhood will be questioned. You will not be regarded as a man by other men, but that is necessary. We have to, as men, commit social suicide.
So what do you think of the concept he sort of espouses there, that you know your quote unquote manhood is going to be questioned. Maybe your male card is going to be revoked. But you have to go against those things in order to sort of leave behind everything you've been taught that you realize is really not the way to go. Moshood?
I think that question should actually have gone to him.
But I'm starting with you.
I'm going to go the fashion route. I like how in fashion today people are beginning to, blur the lines.
Yes.
We have like is it Jaden Smith?
Yes.
Yeah.
The skirts and the dress and stuff like, and there's makeup now. I'm hearing there's a big makeup market in China.
There's a line of makeup for men as well. Yeah.
I was like,
there's
what?
Spanx for men. There are things that can give you 6 packs, but that's not where we're going.
But I like that people are man enough to question these things now and be like, I don't even care. I would wear it create a wig or whatever it is, and challenge things and just push the conversation forward. In Nigeria, how's it been? I don't know. I think we're getting there.
But you're getting there in clusters. You're getting there in a place like Lagos. If you go to my hometown, Ogbomoso, if you go inside to places in Abeokuta and places possibly in Ibadan that are not as cosmopolitan,
I guess it's not everywhere. I guess because even in the US, someone who's in New York can't be as
someone like Cleveland, Ohio, who's not in the middle belt.
Exactly. I mean, that disparity will always be there. But I guess it's just important for us to just take these little steps. Yeah. Maybe in time, with more plays and more films, maybe probably just catch fire.
It'll open up. So, Paolo, what do you think about his concept of social suicide in order to sort of straighten out what has gone wrong?
I agree with him, and it's as I would say why I agree is the fact that we need to learn to understand that this is just one take.
Yeah. There are no
cuts.
Do-overs.
There's no do-overs. Yeah.
There's no.
Don't worry about it. We'll start over again tomorrow.
Guys, it's just one take. So, if I got married today and my wife doesn't like to cook, and I enjoy cooking, I enjoy just taking care of the home. Yes, last week Sunday. We discussed this. And I enjoy taking care of the home, and my wife is on the couch. And I'm like, babes, come and taste this thing. And she comes, gives me a kiss on the cheek, and moves back. We would be as happy as we can be until somebody steps into
family member or friend.
Just imagine my younger sister steps in and sees my wife.
First call is Mama!
So you realize that we care too much about the outside world that we forget to live in the present. We're so bothered about tomorrow.
What would they say?
Who is there talking, who is watching, that no one actually,
we hold our breaths a lot.
So it's like a circle. We wake up in the morning, we get in traffic in Lagos, get to work, go back home. That's it. And you find that time. I remember when I was 13, I was so eager to be 20. I'm 32 now. I'm like, guys, slow this thing down.
It's the scam of adulthood. So I saw a meme the other day. I'm going to digress. I saw a meme the other day. You know when you rate and you give something 5 stars? Somebody said the title was Adulthood. 1 star. I would have given this thing 0.5 stars. It's a scam. Don't do it. It's the scam of adulthood.
So I agree with him. Yeah. You have to go the opposite direction because at the end of the day, what we're living by now are only structures that people put in place
that were created
based on their opinion at the time
and their own gains actually.
So if a man was wealthy at the time and he had 4 wives, he had 20 kids, and he could take care of them, to him he was man enough, as long as he was present and he did whatever he needed to do. So you realize that people in authority most times are people that have passed this thing down the line. So everyone has had to look up. We constantly look up. We look up to God, we look up to the government, we look up to people in authority. So you see that it's a placement where we're constantly seeking what should we be doing rather than finding out for ourselves, how should I do it?
Interesting. I feel like we're hitting some serious, very, very serious notes in this conversation. So another concept I want us to look at now is male privilege. It's basically defined in sociology. I'm not even finishing and Paolo's already laughing. But within the context of sociology, male privilege is about examining social, economic, and political advantages or rights that are available to men solely on the basis of their gender. A man's access to these benefits may vary depending on how closely they match the society's ideal masculine norm. So I'll start, Moshood. You talked about privilege earlier. It might not be exactly the same, but let me start with you. What are your thoughts around the idea of male privilege and just the fact that there is a sex organ that is different.
In Nigeria today?
Anywhere. Well, it's changing faster in the West, but let's keep it in the Nigerian and African context.
To be honest, I actually see more of female privilege than even male privilege.
Take it there.
The way I see it, I think, probably in my industry, I feel like women are actually the ones running things. And you hear men...
Now.
Well, now. But even on the home front, you'd hear great men who still bow to their wives. And as I've grown, I've seen that really the women are actually the ones who rule the house. It's not really the men. They may drop the money and make the decisions. But I think women actually run things.
Some people call it soft power, but I won't espouse on that.
No, but it's actually a thing. I remember as a kid, I wanted something. My father would say, no, you can't get this. And I said, Mommy, can I? And then she goes, don't worry, I'll talk to him. And then like after 2 days, I get what I want. Who really has the power in the house?
But how does that... I think there's a contextual concept to that, because that can work in some areas and relationships where there's a more balanced position of things. Okay. But when there's a bit of a really obvious imbalance in a power situation for many women, it doesn't necessarily play out like that.
Okay, let me ask you this. Male, female, which sex do you think finds it easier to climb the social ladder?
Men.
You think so?
Yeah. Because there are places men can go any time of day, anyhow, that women can never enter.
All right, so let's do this. Donald Trump and his wife was a model.
And he's the president who has allegations of rape against him, allegations of using power wrongfully. If a woman or a black person was in that position, how would that be?
But he's a billionaire president.
Questionable. He's refusing to release his taxes next.
But then there is a wife who's a model who has to just marry him to be what she is today.
When people talk about, we're going down another path. When people talk about marriage as a social climbing ladder for many women, all at the end of the day that it comes with most times is just societal prestige. The access to the money,
yes,
the access to the influence for many of these women is still lacking.
Are you sure though?
This is not where the conversation is going. We have to take this conversation out. So Paolo, I want to have your opinion on this. In terms of the concepts of male privilege, what do you think? Because he wants to take me down the rabbit hole.
I would say that in our society, yes, there is male privilege, and it comes from every sphere of life. They'll give a guy the job before they give a woman the job.
What job?
Any job.
Almost any job. Almost. I said almost.
Almost.
I said almost.
In film, the women get the job because at the end of the day, it's visual appeal. So the guy will get the job if everything was complete, six pack, look, in Nigeria. The babe has to be hot. As long as she's hot and fine, she can get the work without the talent. The guy maybe needs to work a bit more.
So you see, who's winning now?
Wait.
Let him land. I like where he's going. I think.
A guy that works in the bank gets the job because he's a guy that works in the bank and the bank can see prospects. A babe that works in marketing will get it only because she's fine. It's still not privilege. It's what she's being used.
If you're not getting it on the context of your ability and quantity.
Yes. I have friends that are single women. No, I'm taking it too far. I grew up with a single mom.
Okay.
And each time she needed to change an apartment, it was tough. So they didn't care what she was doing. Oh, where's your husband? If there's no husband,
how much money she was making?
They didn't care any of that.
She pay the bills?
They didn't care.
And that is still happening now.
And it still happens now, even with my single friends that are women. So we are in this space where we think the male child is figured out because it's the one that marries someone to us in the context of where we are. And the woman is married in, so she doesn't have anything. Until that is changed, then we're going nowhere. The woman is also disadvantaged because the woman in the door already is not helping her get in. The woman in the door is keeping her spot because she knows there's only one woman on this table of 20 men and it gotta be me. So that girl will stay out and another boy will come in.
Which is why male privilege exists. As long as you can continue to stack that table and you ensure that it's only one other.
And that's why I laugh a lot when I see women organizations because I think it's a joke. Because women do not really want to share the spots. So it's nice to work hard and say, I go here by myself, I go here, but you're not letting anybody else come up.
like there are rabbit holes in this conversation today, because I really want to take him up on that, because there's a narrative that we have as well in Nigeria, and I think across the African continent, that women don't support women and it's women that keep women down. But there's also a context to that conversation that comes from so much. But that's not the conversation we're having today. Today's conversation is on being man enough. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, because of time, we're going to have to see if we can run through so many other conversations that we have, getting into a few of the concepts and themes that are parts of the stage play Man Enough. Stay with us.
Africa is rising. Again, we hear our sounds echo on the other side. Afrobeat and Afropop reinvented, hip life brought back to life, new energy infused into Kwaito and Kwela. Africa is balling. Every stroke, every shot, every raise, we find our place at the top. Taking the helm of real power, new hopes for democracies. A breed of entrepreneurial tigers, audacious storytellers, and a promising generation raring to go. Truly, Africa is rising. And this is where the stories that define our continent live.
I really wish you could see what is happening behind the scenes, because the conversation, the discussion is not stopping. But we're still talking about being man enough. Now let's get particularly into the stage play by Bolanle Austen-Peters Production, showing at Terra Culture in Nigeria. It's called Man Enough, and it talks about a number of issues. The play touches on sexual exploitation, it touches on depression, pressure to provide, pressure to be the alpha male, and so much more. Now, each of you, I'll ask which one of these themes, and even if there's a theme I didn't mention, which one of these themes resonated personally with you? Especially, you said you've done a number of script readings. You'll sit around the table and the guys will sort of share their own experiences or experiences of their friends. So which one of the themes that sort of comes through in Man Enough resonated with you the most, Moshood?
I think it's the sexual pressure.
To perform?
Yes. Actually, I was talking to a couple of friends days ago. We're having this kind of discussions, and it's about sexual prowess and how long a man should last in bed, and you know. And it's like, how long really should a man last in bed? And then we're hearing different figures. Someone was saying, at 10 minutes I'm done, at 20 minutes I'm done. Someone was saying I can go 2 hours. I'm like, wait guys, really, what do women actually want? And then there are like 5 guys racking their heads, see, how do you even satisfy? But then we actually thought of this, like every woman is a different puzzle. Yeah. It's a different thing to explore. And really, you as a man, you never know how to satisfy a woman. You have to find your way in, take time with her, and
to learn to satisfy your woman.
I mean, well,
because I agree with you with the puzzle, example. Because if you look at every woman as being the same, you're gonna fall. Yeah, you'll stumble.
You will. So, and that really was, I mean, to hear my friends talk about how they had issues, and they didn't create themselves. I mean, I won't mention names, but there was a guy amongst us who had issues with the length, and how girls would shame him. I'm like, but he says, I didn't create myself. I'm like, I'm sorry, but he didn't create himself. But then women still give him like, nah, your name, man. You know, and you know, this obviously wrecked his self-esteem, and I don't know. It was a really, really tough discussion we had that day.
Okay, so wow, Paolo, what theme particularly resonated with you?
The most with me, from Man Enough, is depression. Because depression isn't the sad, gloomy face or the crying eyes.
Yeah.
It's the guy that smiles the most in the room.
The one that makes everybody laugh sometimes. Yeah. The life of the party.
Exactly. And
the one who's spending the money.
Thank you.
The one who has all the girls surrounding.
You know this.
I know them. I've seen it.
And when they go back home, it's that cut off.
Yeah.
It's like how we feel every time we finish a show.
That's how you feel. That's not how I feel.
How I feel. So I go into like a deep. Yeah. So the ice suddenly just goes away.
Yeah, the adrenaline is gone.
I've gone through just feeling low for a period of time. I've gone through depression. I've had to talk about it and tackle it. And I know that the face of depression is how our Instagram accounts look currently. all fluffed up without the real value as to what life is beneath.
That's
And
deep.
we need to find true friendships and true conversations and talk about life to be able to snap out of it.
Wow. Okay, so I have to move on because time. Who do you think is policing men? Other men? Women? An alien? I don't know. Who is enforcing or making men feel like if they do not live up to whatever their society's idea of being a man is, then they've somehow failed? Who is putting that pressure there?
Everyone is complicit in this crime.
Everyone is complicit.
Yes, from your parents to your loved ones to other men. And like he said, sometimes we don't do it consciously. It's just a comment, a snide remark, and then but you don't know how hard it hits you.
Yeah.
And and then you have religion, you have culture.
Yeah.
You have all of these things. You have finance. It's a lot of people giving that pressure. Really, everybody's pushed from every angle, and that can be very stifling.
He has something to say. I can see the whole expression.
Very controversial.
I can see the whole expression. Your whole body has the expression.
No.
Your whole body is expressing it.
So I'm going to say everyone, but there's a leaderboard.
Okay.
And on top of it, I think it's women. And because it's the woman that raises the guy, is another woman that ends up in bed with him.
If he's heterosexual.
Those are the people. Let's take it back. Those are primarily the people that take charge of a man.
Okay.
The formative years and the years of his accomplishments.
Okay.
Whether or not she knows she has a power on him or not.
She does have the power.
What she whispers. The man to a man doesn't necessarily see it.
So now there has to be a follow-up question to this. Do you think women for themselves form the idea of what they expect men to be, or are they playing out a script that has been written?
Oh no, it's both. It's both because that's why you easily ask someone. If you ask a babe now, what type of man do you want to get married? There's a lineup.
God-fearing.
And it's almost the same from...
There's a lineup. There's a lineup. So if it's not like this, if it's not like this, if it's not... There's like all these things that this guy has to check. There was a meme online. And she was like, all of this. And the guy said...
And the guy said, I have everything. So what are you? Bring the house.
Bring the house.
I saw it.
Yes, I can cook, I can do this.
Yeah.
Because it's a build-up, guys. It's small things that we put into. Every girl grows up wanting to meet her father in another man.
I don't know.
If your dad was
I understand
amazing.
what he's saying, whether the dad was amazing or the dad you picture in your head because he wasn't amazing.
Do you understand? You grew up picturing someone, so there's no room for you to even meet the guy as the guy, to get to know someone new. What you want is a template.
Yeah.
So when you do that, if it's not the right person, you have your son, you start to program him as to this is who you have to be for another person's child. And then you become one girl's mother-in-law, then you stress the girl out because you think she's not good enough for your son. So it's a circle that keeps going on. And it won't be, if it's not checked, well, it's going to be a wiped out society.
Do you agree with everything he's saying? Because I see you taking it in, absorbing it, and having some questions.
I think the pressure for men really comes from men. In my own experience, I think women are your soft pillows to fall on. In my experience. I know I've seen fathers talk to their sons, and I'm overwhelmed.
Say things like what?
About how the whole don't cry thing.
Yeah.
Fathers tell their sons more than mothers will tell their sons. Most of the toxic masculinity we talk about actually comes from men or your brother. Or at school, the boys are like, oh, he's too short, or he's weak, he's too weak, or he's too poor.
Or he walks like a girl, or he acts like a girl, or he holds a... Yeah.
Yes, he's too femme. Girls probably be cool with you and be like, nah, he's cool, but guys are like, nah, that guy's not a real guy. He's not a real man.
Moshood, but you tend to forget that the man is never at home. It's the woman that is at home to speak to the child.
But the women actually speak
It's the woman that is talking to the child. Guys, let's be frank.
It's her voice, but are they her words?
Oh, then, no, I can't answer that question. You know why? Because the child doesn't grow up answering that question. He's not trying to think, who sent mommy? The conversation that builds in his head over and over again is that's mommy.
But did you have that?
So mommy would have told the boy not to cry. I grew up with a single mom. My mom has only seen me cry once. The day my mother saw me cry, my mother said, this must be really bad because I've never seen you cry. That was pressure. So if I'm ever going through anything, I still cannot cry. Because it broke her down on a different level.
Okay.
Because I have put myself in this space of leadership to be able to lead in my home.
But how should that be your responsibility as the son of a single mother? Why? And I've seen it where the father goes or the father's not always around, and then somebody tells the little boy that you're now the man of the house.
Yes.
How?
No, but you know, for me,
how?
It was never the case because I have an older brother.
You said
So my older brother took all of that, but for me, I just.
And you took it, and then you also put some of it.
Yeah, I have such a strong bond with my mom.
Yeah.
So from very early, I just said, I don't want my mom going through this. So it's a different.
So you have to step up.
It's a different game. I had to step up, and I've tried to stay up as much as possible.
Okay.
And I do think that for as long as we have these checklists from the woman's line that this is the type of man I want, if she has that type of man, then she's going to have a specific type of son that she's raising.
Wow, this conversation is intense, and it is, I think, the kind of conversations that need to be happening in pockets. They need to be happening in beer joints, over peanuts, over suya, over roasted fish, in somebody's house for their birthday, and they just need to be common and more regular conversations so that we can hear these perspectives. And I also appreciate the fact that the two of you, your experiences are not the same. And so that also adds color to it, because we also need to understand that there is a personal context to any conversation around any social issue as it may be. We have to start wrapping things up. Time is not with us. I'm going to ask a question, and it's going to be personal, and I hope that the two of you can answer us as cross your fingers. It won't be that bad, but 20 seconds to just really answer. So this is the question here. If you could raise a little boy and you could do something different than the way you were raised, what would you do? Paolo, let me start with you. 20 seconds.
I was raised amazing by my mom. I would just try to be more amazing. And to tell him that life is really about being water and just flowing wherever you go.
And being fluid.
Yeah. Keeping the fluidity alive.
Okay. Moshood, what about you?
I'm grateful for my parents. They're almost perfect.
Okay.
I think they'll think I have my kids do is travel more.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm grateful.
All right, so that didn't end the way I want. The way it might be, I was expecting, but then again, it's in the personal context of conversations and acknowledging that everybody's situation is different. So we are wrapping things up right now, and I have to say a very, very big thank you to my guests, Moshood, Fattah, and Paolo Sisiano. They are both cast members of the hit play Man Enough that is on its third run here in Lagos. I did have a game schedule, but we can't get into that because the conversation has been so good. We might play the game on social media that they can see what your answers are. But as usual, this is how we end the debrief for this edition. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget that you can keep the conversation going. Use the hashtag NCDebrief. Go to our social media pages at News Central TV on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And of course, check us out on our website, www.newscentral.africa. And until next time, I'm Tolulokwe Adeleru Balogun. We'll leave you with the words of a very well-known, renowned feminist. Hear this.
Masculinity is a construct that confines and chains and imprisons. All the same words, three words that mean the same thing, that confines, imprisons, and chains men. And men must liberate themselves from that construct because they must understand that we are all a mix on the spectrum of masculinity and femininity, and that we exist beyond the binary of men and women. I want something much more than equality because men are not free, and I don't want to be equal to someone who's not free. I want to be free. So in order to be free, and in order to have something more than equality, I demand the destruction of patriarchy, and I demand to be free.